Since the pandemic, a lot has changed in our world and with your money. If you were rich before the pandemic, you probably feel richer now than before. But if you were poor before the pandemic, you probably feel poorer now than before too. A report from ABC News revealed that the pandemic made rich people richer and poor people poorer. Meanwhile, CNN Business reported that while millions of people fell into poverty during the pandemic, billionaires became even wealthier. Just how much wealthier? According to The Guardian, the wealthiest Americans became 40% richer during the pandemic. However, other reports claim billionaires became 62% richer during the pandemic. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Finance Guardian channel. If you find yourself scratching your head and wondering what is going on, this doesn't make sense, you're not alone. We've gone through a worldwide health crisis and a worldwide recession, yet some people, the rich, have become significantly richer while the majority of the population, ordinary people, are now poorer than before. Regular people are struggling to make ends meet, and it's hard for them to pay their bills, rent, and buy groceries because things are just so much more expensive. So in this video, we will talk about how the pandemic made rich people 62% richer and poor people poorer. We'll focus on the learning game and not on the blaming game, because the reality is that the rich are getting richer and the pandemic has accelerated that trend. The rich are only going to continue to get richer faster, so you have to get with the times, understand what's going on, and learn what the rich are doing. In that way, you can become rich yourself and remain prosperous. Understanding what's happening now is more necessary than ever before. Bitcoin was trading at $7,160 on January 1, 2020. Also, on January 3, 2020, the Dow Jones traded at $28,634 before plummeting to $19,173 on March 20, 2020, after the coronavirus pandemic struck the United States. The federal and state governments immediately shut down the economy, resulting in millions of job losses. The US government sent stimulus checks to millions of employed Americans to stimulate the economy. So, where does this money come from? US Treasury bonds and other securities were sold to borrow money for the government. As soon as the bonds are sold, the Federal Reserve begins printing money. Printing money, however, isn't new. US government debt totals $29 trillion and the Federal Reserve is printing money to cover it. What's new is that 40% of all US dollars have been printed within 12 months alone, from 2020 to 2021. The irony of this number is that the Federal Reserve reported that 40% of Americans did not have $400 in the bank for emergency expenses just 2 years ago. According to the 2019 Federal Reserve survey, almost 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency with cash, savings, or a credit card charge that they can quickly pay off. Massive quantities of new money have been printed by the U.S. government. As of January 6, 2020, the U.S. Federal Reserve had approximately $4 trillion in reserves. That number rose to $6.7 trillion on January 4, 2021. Money usually serves as a medium of exchange to facilitate the sale, purchase, or trade of goods between buyers and sellers. The problem is that there are no goods or services to back up the trillions of dollars currently in circulation. So printing more money will not necessarily increase economic output. It will only increase the amount of money circulating in the economy. What does it matter, you might ask? Basically, it leads to inflation and devaluation. Inflation is caused by too much money in circulation chasing the same amount of goods. In March of 2022, annual inflation in the US spiked to 8.5%, a record high since December 1981, driven in part by soaring food prices, energy prices, and other factors. Do you remember the 3 stimulus checks issued to millions of struggling Americans? Rather than spending the stimulus checks on food, savings, or paying off debt, some people invested in luxury goods such as Louis Vuitton or Gucci, stocks such as GameStop, and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoins. Aside from inflation, the Fed printing too much money also results in dollar devaluation and debasement. We have had previous governments do the same thing, and the outcome is always the same. Germany, for instance, had the highest monthly inflation rate of over 30,000% between June 1921 and November 1923. They are also experiencing hyperinflation in Zimbabwe. Let me diagram what this means. So, we have the government, and then we have the average person. What happened was that, together with the Federal Reserve Bank, the government printed money, which was then given to people. As a result, they became thrilled, thinking, hey, I got some free money. I don't have to pay my rent or my mortgage. I got a stimulus check in the mail. Now that they have had this free money, the average person felt richer. Even if they didn't need it, the average person took this free money and started spending it. Not everyone did this, but a lot of people did. Of course, some people didn't have any money, they couldn't eat, so they needed these funds to buy groceries. But many people continued to work who no longer needed these funds. The cash they took was not required for anything else. Instead of spending it on groceries or electricity, they started spending it on giant corporations like Amazon, Walmart, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, etc. What happened now was that money flowed from the Fed and the government down to the people, then it floated up here right to the big corporations. So when the government started printing money, what that did was dilute the value of everyone's dollar. Not just the money that they printed, but also the dollars you had saved in your accounts and the wages you earned. Well, it no longer has a lot of value. The $25,000 you used to make isn't going to buy you as much now. Even if you made $250,000 before, that salary wouldn't purchase as much. Just look at the price of everything around you. It's all going up. While everyone blames supply chain problems, if you are financially literate, you know it is not just about supply chains problems, it's inflation. Whenever you print more money, you dilute the dollar's value, so its value goes down. Today, all these newly printed dollars are being concentrated in the hands of big corporations. We now have an imbalance of dollars. More and more money is flowing to the wealthy. As for the average person, you may or may not have more savings than before. Due to the cost of everything being so much higher, many people actually have fewer savings than they used to. Suppose you had the same amount of money in your bank account as before and earned the same salary. Nevertheless, you would be poorer today than before because the money you earned is now concentrated at the top. The dollars you've saved can no longer stretch as far as they used to. There is an increase in the cost of groceries, rent, houses, vacations, and healthcare. The value of our dollar has fallen because of inflation, making everything in the world more expensive. The people below have this fixed income. Their salary isn't growing fast enough to keep up with inflation. Meanwhile, you have a much higher concentration of dollars up here at the top. But who is this benefiting? The rich, of course. It benefits the wealthy and not just the corporation, but it also benefits the shareholders. Anyone can invest in Amazon or LVMH, the company that owns Louis Vuitton. Companies like these trade on the stock market, so the people who profited from this were those who invested their money through 2021. If you did, you would have seen a massive return on your money. This inflation we saw didn't bother you that much because your investments grew even faster than inflation. Now that you understand what's happening, what do? Here are 3 essential things first for you to do. First of all, you must educate yourself about money and finance. The second thing you have to do is prepare and have the right mindset. Finally, you must first make sure that you'll get your money. It won't be easy, but there's no reason it can't be done. If you want it, you can get it. It is your responsibility to earn your money to take care of yourself, your family, and your community. Because if you don't do it, nobody else will. And that is all the time that we have today, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do hit that like button. If you're new around here, welcome to the channel. Please do subscribe to remain updated about all of our future videos. We'll see you next time.